Um, Good morning. I just want to share a little something here. In the midst of everything that is going on, in the midst that black women are being killed every 5 hours, and 100,000 black women and girls are currently missing, I just thought it would be important to share Warren versus District of Columbia, and hope that this would shed some light on the state and condition of what's going on with regards to black women being unprotected. Now, this case, it involves Carolyn Warren, Miriam Douglas, Joan Telefaro, and Wilfred Nichols. These four ladies sued the Metropolitan Police Department for failure to protect. What happened was these ladies were a victim of basically a home invasion on March 16, 1975. And these ladies were raped and sodomized, and they had called the police. The police came out, rolled around, and then left after being there for about 5 minutes. So then the ladies, Farrell and Carolyn Warren, had screamed down to Miriam Douglas to see if she was okay, but they could still hear her screaming. So, which meant the men who were Marvin Kent and James Morse, they were in the house. They entered in through Douglas' second floor room, where she was forced to perform fellatio and was subsequently raped. So Warren and Telefaro, they heard Douglas' screams from the floor below them, and they called 911 again to let them know that what was going on and that the burglars was in the house. And so law enforcement, they just basically recorded it as an investigate the trouble. Now, the first call was made at about 6:23 a.m. Then it was called again at 6:26. And so they just kept repeatedly calling because they was having issues. The cops arrived at the scene at 6:33 and had left after 5 minutes. 5 minutes after they arrived on the scene, they left. So when Warren and Telefaro crawled back inside their room, they again heard Douglas continue screams, and so they went to call the police again to let them know that they were inside the home. And the second call was made around 6:42 a.m. But the call was put down, as a investigate the trouble. So kind of like a BS 415, which is like disturbing the peace. So the call never got dispatched to any police officers. And so Warren and Telefaro was believing that the police might be in the house. They called downstairs to Douglas, which alerted Kent to their presence. So Kent and Morse took all three of the women by knife point and accompanied them over to Kent's apartment. So for the next 14 hours, these captured women, all these women were raped, repeatedly raped, robbed, beaten, forced to commit sexual acts upon one another, and made them submit to the sexual demands of Kent and Morse. Warren and Telefaro and Douglas brought the following claims of negligence against the District of Police and the District of Columbia and the Metropolitan Police Department, And it was for dispatcher's failure to forward the 6:23 a.m. call, with the proper degree of urgency, and 2, responding to the officer's failure to follow standard police investigative procedures, specifically their failures to check the rear entrance and position themselves properly near the doors and windows to ascertain whether there was anything going on inside the homes. So the dispatcher failure to dispatch, so nothing was done. So basically the ball was dropped. And then Nicole, on April 30th, 1978, at approximately 11:30 p.m., this person stopped this car for a red light at the intersection of Missouri Avenue and 16th Street Northwest. And directly behind them, the car was struck in the rear several times and proceeded to beat the victim about the face, head, breaking his jaw. Metropolitan police officers arrived on the scene. In response to the officer's direction, appellate's companion ceased any further efforts to obtain information of the assailants. When the officers failed to gain the information, they just left the victim there. They just left him, unable to institute any legal action against his assailants. So Nico, he brought a negligence action also against the Metropolitan Police Department and District of Columbia. Whether decisions in these cases, in a 4-3 decision, the District of Columbia Courts of Appeal affirmed the trial court's dismissal of the complaints against the District of Columbia and individual members of the Metropolitan Police Department based on public duty doctrine, ruling that the duty to provide public service is owed to the public at large and absent a specific relationship between the police and the individual. No specific legal duty exists. So what they're saying is law enforcement does not have a duty to protect. So it doesn't exist. So the court adopted the court trial's determination that no special relationship existed between the police and the appellates, and therefore no specific legal duty existed between the police officers and the appellates. So you get attacked, the cops are not obligated. They're not obligated to protect. This is why they cherry pick in a manner in which they do. What do I mean by cherry pick? It's like they pick and choose who to protect and serve. Okay? And the fact that we have Warren versus the District of Columbia, which was recently upheld again, like a couple of years ago. So the Supreme Court also upheld it once again, that law enforcement does not have a legal duty to protect. So since they don't have the legal duty to protect, okay, this is where weapons come into play as far as I'm concerned. Because if they don't have a duty to protect, then that means we have to exercise the Second Amendment, Fifth Amendment, 14th Amendment to protect ourselves. Now I'm going to tell you how this plays in to black women being unprotected. Because law enforcement is not legally bound or obligated to protect the citizens, this is why when black women go missing, they don't bother to look. They don't bother to look for us. For what? No, they're not going to look for us. No reason to. Because if they don't have a legal duty to protect us, and I'm just saying citizens at large, if law enforcement doesn't have a duty to protect the citizens at large, what does that say for black women who are unprotected. Okay, it's right there. So this is why when we go missing, you don't hear about it on the news. When white women go missing, when that young lady got killed at the clothes house, high-end furniture store here in Los Angeles in the Tony community of Hancock Park, they found her killer in 48 hours. But you got now 100,000 black women and girls are currently missing here in the United States. And it doesn't even make the local news. There are so many cases where black women have been murdered, set ablaze, even while pregnant, beaten, robbed, mutilated. Bodies were, dismembered, disparted, so to speak, trying to keep it clean. And this stuff doesn't make the news. You hear nothing about it. So ladies, we can cite this. We can use this as reason and cause why we must defend ourselves. So they're going to talk about, well, you can't carry a 4-ounce can of pepper spray. Well, according to a warrant versus the District of Columbia, okay, law enforcement doesn't have to exist. Don't have to protect. Under Lozito versus New York City, DeShaney versus Winnebago County, Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, and of course our warrant versus District of Columbia. So these other cases here, and there are many other cases where law enforcement, they don't have to do squat. They don't have to do anything. And it continues to be upheld by the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court, ladies, they've upheld this, that the duty, to protect, it does not exist. Well, if it doesn't exist, then how do we have laws that are in quote-unquote existence that tell you what weapons you can and cannot carry, depending on where you live, depending on what state you live in? So, I carry whatever I need to carry. Because if a cop pulls me over and I go to court and they say, well, you can only carry a 2.5-ounce can of pepper spray, and I had a 3-ounce can, so I have two arguments I can make here. Number one, there are no 2.5-ounce cans of pepper spray on the market. Okay, that's one argument. Number two, since law enforcement does not have a duty to protect under Warren versus District of Columbia, and Lozito versus New York City, and DeShaney versus Winnebago County, Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, and the like. So, if law enforcement doesn't have a duty to protect us, then you know what that means, ladies? We have a duty to protect ourselves. And we need to uphold that duty to protect ourselves. Screw that. That's pure madness. Oh, no. I tell women, carry a walking stick. If you're disabled, my goodness, carry a brace or a crutch or a walking cane. You can use any one of those tools to effectively defend yourself. Even break bones on your assailant too. Because I got canes that have a weight capacity anywhere from 300 to 600 pounds. I have a cane that has a 500-pound weight capacity. I have another one that has a 600-pound weight capacity. Even though I don't weigh nowhere near that, but these are heavy-duty canes that I have in my possession. I go nowhere without a walking cane. You know, I sustain injuries where using a cane is required, which is needed. But even though I carry a cane, I taught myself how to use it for self-defense. You want to get an educated swing on any stick, cane, brace, crutch that you carry, ladies. If you're carrying a gun, pepper spray, BB gun, taser, you want to have an educated knowledge on how to use whatever you carry. I don't care if you go to your sock drawer and pot a sock and put a D-cell battery in it. And if you're going to do that, let it be a Duracell or an Energizer. Those are nice, heavy-weighted batteries. Put it in a long gym sock, and you can send somebody into orbit. Sure can. So this is where we're at. This is why they don't look for us. We know they don't look for us because we're black women. We're not valued. We don't have that value factor that society has long decided and determined who's feminine, who's not feminine, who's worthy of protection, and who's not. So this goes back throughout history. So this is where we're at, black women. So if they're going to uphold this law here, Warren versus District of Columbia and the others, no, screw that. No, then I don't care what state you live in. You want to really invest in your personal safety. You need to set up like self-defense groups. Get a couple of your friends, 5 or 6 of y'all, get together. Pay a trainer or somebody to come out and teach you self-defense moves. Get about 5 or 6 of y'all together. 10 of y'all. A dozen of you. We need to do this, ladies. We need to have our own security force. You know, and I'm not saying this, and I'm not BSing. I am serious about black women empowerment. I am serious about black women's empowerment through self-defense. I'm very serious about it. And I have been serious about it for quite some time. Everybody else is walking around here and they're protected. And here we are, we're taking chances. We're not protected. You know, you got men out here following black women. You got men out here want to attack you because you turned down a date or an advancement. You know, they advances towards you because you don't want to date this person. So this bozo think he has a right to attack you. We have to be prepared for stuff like that. Somebody come attack you, you better have one of you long screwdrivers or an ice pick. Pepper spray his ass and then put the ice pick on him. You know, we have to protect ourselves. If you're wearing the right type of shoe or boot, you can kick them. You ain't got to do Bruce Lee kicks to the face. Hell, you can just kick them right in the shins. Kick them hard. Kick on the side of the knee. Kick on the side of the ankle. Stomp the top of the foot. You can break that. And you bust him across the shins. And when he bent down, and if you got a walking cane, you just pick that cane up and you just slam it across his back. You want to take him out. You just take it and you just give them hammer blows all across the back. back and head, back, neck, head, all of it. Ain't nobody looking out for us. We got to come to that reality. This is why they don't look for us. Because the law says they don't have to. The Supreme Court says that they don't have to protect us. That if we go missing, they don't have to look for us. It's right there. This is backed by the United States Supreme Court. So there it is. So these cops, that's why they get to cherry pick, and they pick and choose who they're gonna protect. I mean, we look throughout history, concerned that the police department has came out of the Ku Klux Klan, just like Christianity came out of the Catholic Church. So I'm just using that to make a reference so I can have a clear-cut understanding where this is, the history. So if law enforcement came out of Ku Klux Klan, and their first business, or they were slave catchers, they were foremost slave catchers. So you honestly think they're going to be looking out for us? Black women, they're just as hostile too. So, these ladies here were not protected. They was beaten, raped, robbed, and they would have been better off, taking their chance. It was 3 of them. 2 of those guys, one had a knife. They could have took their chances and picked up something, whatever they can get their hands on in the house, and start smashing the hell out of them. They should have been picking up some, I don't know. Back in the 70s, had them old rotary phones. And one of them could have picked the phone up, pow, bust them in the head with it. Receiver the whole nines. Pot pan skills, but they didn't get their hands on. Lamp, table, whatever. It was just one of the guys had a knife. All 3 of them should have just, it was 3 of them. All they had to do was pick up stuff around the house, wherever they were at. This is where it is. So it ain't looking out for us. They made it clear. And they keep upholding it. Because you get police that are negligent. People go to try to sue for negligence. And you can't. Now, Reginald Denny's during the Rodney King with the riots, LA riots. He got beat. He got knocked upside the head with a fire hydrant, bricks, all kind of stuff. Cops was ordered to stand down, not to do anything because the National Guards were en route. Reginald, I'm gonna let you know where I'm going with this. Reginald Denny's went to file a lawsuit. His lawsuit got tossed out. His lawsuit got thrown out. Now, I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret. Now, Reginald Denny was a white man. So if that can happen to him, what does that say about black women? That's something to think about. What does that say about black women? That's something to really, to look at. That this guy went to file a lawsuit and they tossed it out because law enforcement was ordered to stand down. And if cops are ordered to stand down, they was watching people loot, set fires, pulling people out their cars, beating up the whole 9 yards. So if that can happen to them, that lets us know what our chance is, which is less than 0. We don't have a snowball's chance in hell. They don't have to look for us. It's right here on the books. The United States Supreme Court, like I said earlier. So if they don't have to look for us, and if the law tells them they don't have to look for us, I mean, the fact they don't have to protect. So if they don't have to protect, they don't have to do anything. If they ain't got to protect, they ain't got to look for us. So they're not. They ain't going to look for us. Look for us for what? They're not going to do it. So, like Mama always said, if you want something done, you have to do it yourself. And that includes self-defense too. Because they're not going to do a damn thing. Check this out. Let me tell y'all what's really funny. Y'all going to flip when I tell y'all this. Now, law enforcement, while they don't have a legal obligation to protect us, guess who they do have a legal obligation to protect? Would you believe me if I told you that law enforcement has a legal obligation to protect inmates that are in prison? They have a legal duty to protect inmates in prison. Why is that, you ask? As crazy as that may sound, the reason why that's the case, because those inmates, while incarcerated, they do not have the ability to defend themselves. Their right to defend themselves is stripped because they're incarcerated. So law enforcement does have a legal obligation. And I'm talking about the officers that work in the prisons. They have a legal duty to protect inmates. But if you're on the outside, you're a law-abiding citizen, the hell with you. You don't get no protection. Willy wally woo. Nope, you're not getting it. So there it is. So if law enforcement ain't going to protect us, I'm telling you, ladies, I'm like, If you're not going to protect me, then I'm going to carry whatever I can carry. Whatever I can afford to get. I don't want to hear about your limits on pepper spray. You don't even have to protect me. So if you don't have to protect me, then that means under this Supreme Court case, I could defend myself and do so by any means necessary. They don't have to do it. They don't have to defend us. I don't care if I'm going outside to take out trash. I carry weapons on me. You know, if you're going to call the police, always dial 911. If you, for whatever crazy reason, the reason why you want to always call 911, because the calls are recorded. Those calls are recorded. So always dial 911. So then that way you can say, hey, I'm being attacked. I'm about to protect myself. This is what's going on. The calls are being recorded. So then that way, say somebody attack you and you bust them over the head with your walking stick. And they end up bleeding out their ears, which indicates a fractured skull. Well, that 911 call can be used as evidence for you. Because you defended yourself. And it's not against the law to carry a walking stick. Now, I'm going to have to do a video about walking sticks, because some walking sticks you can carry. Some, there are some legal provisions to certain walking sticks. But I'm going to do a video about that and give that rundown. But this is what we're dealing with. This is what we are dealing with here. This is a crock of crap if ever was any. This is a crock of crap. Look at there. That's why they're not looking for us. And that's why they're not going to look for us. Because here's the thing. If they don't have to, why would they? People do two things. People do what they can get away with, and they do whatever it is they choose to do, as long as it benefits them. But there's one thing people are not going to do, and that's what they don't have to do. If they don't have to do it, trust and believe, rest assured, ladies, it won't get done. That's why they're not looking for us. We know there's a racial component. We know that. There's no doubt. There is a racial component, and that racial component is real. And we know that. But what we must also know is that the laws say they don't have to. The laws say they ain't got to look for us. So, since they don't have to look for us, ladies, guess what? They're not going to. And at this point, there's no need to expect it. There's no need to expect for them to look for us. They don't care. So, we got to defend ourselves. Before I retired, I always took weapons to work. I didn't tell anybody. It was nobody's business. No one needed to know. I didn't tell anyone. But I always carried protection when I went to work. My father got me my first gun and stun gun, both of them. So I never told anyone that I was carrying stuff for protection. I never made that known. The only person that needed to know it was the idiot that decided to want to attack me. Black women, arm yourselves. We don't even have the United States Supreme Court on our side. We don't. They are not on our side. We must understand that. We're between a rock and a hard place. We have to understand the law too. So then that when we have to defend ourselves, there are case laws that we can cite, in our defense. And in our matter of case or what have you. This is what we have to do. So ladies, if you like this video, please hit the share and the subscribe button. Hit that notification button while you're at it. I may do a part 2 to this. So be cognizant and be aware of your surroundings. Be on guard at all times. It might not be a way to live, but that's what it is. We have the Supreme Court who has made it clear. And with this and everything else in society and history, we must never forget, and we must always understand and realize that we are black women unprotected. And we need to defend ourselves because of that. Have a wonderful morning. Have a safe and prosperous day. More to come.